It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. Welcome to a Friday. We are halfway through our show already. Gary and I started a long time ago.
Yeah.
We call it the pre-show meeting. Gary, how are you?
Good, but I'm tired.
Yeah?
I was doing Christmas visiting yesterday.
Oh, okay.
By the way, I want to make this clear. No alcohol involved.
Then why do it? What was the point?
Because I work overnights, and so you got to do it. Yeah. Well, then I'm drinking some coffee here. I'm having an extra cup of coffee tonight just to keep me alert.
Remember the commercial
and coherent
back in the day? Gary never has a second cup at home.
Was it Gary? Was that the name?
I don't know if it was Gary or not, but I mean, I'm using Gary for this purpose. Was it Maxwell House or something? And they were they were visiting neighbors or friends.
And never has a second one at home.
Yeah. Gary's wife looks at the wife, who's hosting and says, Gary never has a second. And I fully expected her to go, what are you up to? You got a thing with my husband or what? What's with this coffee? I don't know. Maybe my young imaginative mind went too far.
My point was actually...
You're tired.
My point was not, anything to do with cheating on anybody.
Well, you would have to be in a relationship.
Exactly.
As you've often said.
Yes.
I always get flack when I do that, by the way.
Yeah. I have never, ever, we'll get back to the coffee in a moment. I have never, ever cheated on anyone.
Yeah.
And do you want to know why? Because that would require two women at the same time to be attracted to me. And that has never happened, and I'm pretty sure is never going to happen the rest of my life.
You have to get to one before you get to two. That was the first thing I learned. That's about all I learned, but that was,
right.
Simple math.
Right. On that one. So when people say, are you tempted? Well, there has to be the temptation in front of you.
Yeah, there has to be that, and then there has to be someone else. The stand-up comedian said, I'm all ready for my threesome. All I need is two more people.
By the way, yesterday I happened to hear this one comedian. It was on Dry Bar.
Yeah.
And Mary Mack, who I'd never heard of her before.
Yeah, I've heard of her, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Shit, what a great line. What a great line she has. When I turned it on, she was saying to the audience, now I want you to repeat to me. I want you to repeat with me.
Uh-huh.
I am not a victim. I am not a victim. I am not a victim. Now everybody say it. Are you ready? Let's go. And she said, and the crowd was behind her.
Yeah.
I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim. And then they all stopped. You can hear some chuckling. She goes, because I'm a killer.
Yeah, she's
like,
great.
Oh my gosh, I was roaring. I went, wow, that's great.
She's very funny, very funny, and that's a good venue. That's always a good room.
Yeah, that was
Dry Bar.
Yeah, that was fun. Oh no, but I was saying with my coffee because I was talking about the fact that I was visiting during the day and there was no alcohol. Maybe, what do you think? We have a week more on the air before vacation begins and all that stuff.
I got some right here.
Maybe a little bit of Bailey's. That's a clear liquid. I don't want vodka in my coffee.
I have a Diet Mountain Dew.
No, I don't think.
Which has the brominated vegetable oil in it that they're outlawing. So I got to drink it fast. I stocked up. I have a whole tool shed.
What is that?
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
I
haven't heard about this.
They're going after the brominated vegetable oil. When you buy certain sodas, and they have there's certain like colors in the soda. And flavorings in the soda. In order for them to not dissipate and fall to the bottom, or separate and fall to the bottom, they use brominated vegetable oil. Now, I've heard you should get 8 cups of brominated vegetable oil every day. I could be wrong on that. But they're and it's funny because a friend of mine, longtime friend, is a trainer, and he's always told me, that has brominated vegetable oil in it. And so I don't know if this still does. I know it was one of the products years ago. And yeah, they're looking at doing away with the brominated vegetable oil. Hey, it has potassium. That's a positive thing. But yeah, it's funny because I was thinking about the whole vaccine thing. I was reading the story on Pfizer; their stock's gone down, and I was thinking of the old joke. Well, I won't get the vaccine because I don't know what's in it. Now, please give me a McRib and large fries. And the thing is, and by the way, it's a very different concern. It's just a joke. Don't write me. I'm looking forward to your email. But, it's like, and then I started thinking about all the stuff that, every day that we drink, or eat, even if we think it's healthy, it's not always, we don't know what's in it. And I think we got away from reading labels. And
not me. When you're type 2, you're always looking at carbs.
Yeah. Okay. The nutrition label, yes, I think we're still doing that. But in terms of like the content, mostly because a lot of it we can't pronounce.
If you can't pronounce it, it's going to kill you.
Yeah, probably.
I always still like that because it's a true story where they did, that they actually went out and the whole dihydrogen oxide.
Oh yeah. They
actually
asking people.
They actually did a poll on dihydrogen oxide and how dangerous it is and should it be banned.
Uh-huh.
And they were saying, that if you drink too much of it, you can die, and if you immerse yourself in it, you can die. And of course, dihydrogen oxide is water.
Yeah.
And after they had their presentation and everything they said to the people was true, it was like, what was it, 80-90% said it should be banned?
Yeah,
it was like, what?
Right.
It's like, yeah, we're idiots. We're complete idiots.
All right. So
idiots.
Oh, yeah.
We're not the idiots. We covered so much yesterday,
right.
And we even played. Well, we played this audio cut. I want to play. This is Corinne Jean-Pierre, and this is from 2 days ago. So we played this on yesterday's show,
right?
And we commented on it. And it wasn't until after I was home, and I went, "Oh my gosh, this should be the story of the day." I didn't even read. I went, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh," and really, it wasn't covered much at all. In fact, the first two stories we have were stories that I think should have been a lot bigger yesterday. And then I saw Turley covered it, and it was we'll play the response after Corinne Jean-Pierre had already said it, and Pete Ducey had a follow-up. All right?
Yeah.
Here you go. All right. Here you go.
Thanks, Corinne. You said that President Biden was familiar with what his son was going to say on Capitol Hill. If I called my dad and said, I am about to violate a congressional subpoena, he'd probably say, son, you shouldn't do that. Was there any attempt by President Biden to talk Hunter out of it today?
You're going to call your dad Steve?
Call him Dad, usually.
Look, I don't have anything else to add.
I got nothing.
But when she said it, and yesterday when we played that audio cut, we were both familiar with the fact that she had said the president was familiar with what Hunter was going to say.
Right. Yeah.
And it just, I don't know why. There were just so many other things yesterday.
On the border.
Right. Yep. And maybe it was being in the Christmas spirit.
Well, and also the vote on the impeachment inquiry.
The impeachment inquiry, yes, everything else.
There was a lot of other stuff.
And it's one of those days where I went home and I went.
It didn't hit.
Oh, my God. Corinne, the White House just led the Republicans down the path. They opened the gate of the path for Republicans to say the president involved in obstruction of justice? Because remember, the reason, when you break it down, and Jonathan Turley talked about it, we'll get into some of the specifics of it a little bit later on in the show, but when but the Republicans want to talk to Hunter, it's not about Hunter.
Yeah. Yeah,
the Republicans are going after Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And so that's what they're trying to find out. Was Biden involved in it? Hunter is coming in nobody really cares whether Hunter goes to jail or not. Some people might and say, well, because if he doesn't, there's not a two-tier there's a two-tier system of justice if he doesn't, and I understand that. But the big prize here is election of 2024. It is to get, and whatever happens to Biden, it's getting the evidence, to prove it. And so it's well known that this is a congressional subpoena, and not abiding by it, whether there was a vote or not, doesn't matter. That's not in the Constitution. That it is legit. And by not doing it, that is a criminal act. The president, and this came from Karine Jean-Pierre, and I'm sorry, but if I'm working in the White House, I'm like, she's fired, she's got to go.
Yeah.
Because she opened the door to let the Republicans in to say the president was familiar with what his son was going to do.
Right.
But that he was going to commit a criminal act.
And by the way, it won't be hard to find that out because I could see them coming back saying, well, KJP misspoke and she was wrong about that. Well,
they didn't today, though.
Well, they didn't turn around yet because nobody's made this case against them yet. Nobody's made the case that this opens that door in a big way in front of her or officially at the White House. And it would be very easy. Here's the thing. If there's an investigation or if there's a line of questions that happens between now and there will be, of course, now and the end of the year, she's already walked them through that door. There's no way around that.
Right, because you just said he was familiar. So the president knew what his son was going to do, and the reason his son was being pulled in was to get his son to testify under oath about his father.
Right.
So Biden is the target, and he knew the only thing you don't have, because they did ask the question, and Ducey is getting to the point. Was there any attempt by the president to talk Hunter out of defying that congressional subpoena? And she said, and she realized at that point, I'm not going to go into that I'm not going to go into that whatsoever.
She realized that she couldn't walk the other statement back, and she needs to stop.
Because that would have been the second step.
Right.
Because the first one was like, oh, no, he knew what he was going to say. He did, so they communicated.
Right. Yeah,
so
you're talking about preparing it.
Right.
And basically what you're doing, I mean, that is a witness that the GOP has in this case in the inquiry against a sitting president.
No, that's even better because it's not his son. He's a witness.
It's a witness.
It's a witness.
Forget about the relationship.
Yeah. It's not husband and wife.
No. There is no what do they call that with they grant them, it's not immunity, but I guess immunity from having to testify, if you're a spouse.
Right. And you can't even make that moral case when it comes down to is they called a witness to testify against who their subject is. It's a legit subpoena.
And the subject talked with the witness.
Right. And if you defy it, and then the representative of the suspect, the representative of the suspect said, "Oh yeah, he knew what he was gonna say."
Right. Right.
Well, then you knew he was going to do that, and that right at that point, you're communicating with the witness who was supposed to testify and refused to testify, and your representative is saying that you knew it. Oh my! When that hit me yesterday morning, I was like, can I go back on the air again?
No.
I need to go back on the air.
Well, and, I think it needs to be, we need to focus on the fact that, and the words need to be used, witness.
Yeah. Not son, witness.
This is a witness that was being called. Not in defense. This is a witness that was being called, and the subject contacted the witness beforehand and talked about
the witness. We don't know who contacted who.
Right, but they had contact.
They had communication. The suspect and the witness had communication, and we know that because that's why Ducey asked the question: was there any attempt by the president to talk Hunter out of defying the congressional subpoena? And he said, I really can't get into it, but he's proud of his son. Well, then that even saying that positive thing, he's proud of what his son is doing. And really, Turley made the connection yesterday, but I didn't see widespread coverage of that. Maybe there was. I mean, I didn't get, like I said, I was doing a lot of visiting yesterday. Maybe on Fox they were talking about it. I didn't see anything on Fox on the website where they brought that up. Turley on Messenger, is where he had his op-ed piece on that one and just said, "My God, do they even know what they're doing? Do they have any clue in the White House what the law is?"
And my question would be, was White House counsel involved in a conversation at any point? I mean, how far did that go? Who was in the room?
Because now that's the next thing that you ask the witness when he comes in. Now, we all know he was going to take the fifth if he came in.
Right.
You're not going to do it. But that is the question that you ask, and then you ask, you've set up an investigation now for obstruction of justice, and you made the great point is Democrats went crazy when, over Trump.
Yeah.
And
Comey. And talking about Michael Flynn.
Talking about Michael Flynn.
Mm-hmm.
And
Go easy on Michael Flynn. He basically, that was, hey, take it easy on Michael Flynn.
And there was no evidence against Trump.
And the liberals went nuts.
They were nuts. And there was no evidence. There was no crime that had been committed at all.
Right.
We know now that Biden's own Department of Justice says there's serious crimes from Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
And that some of that money flow went to the president, went to the suspect.
Right.
Even though everybody denies it. It's like, what are you talking about?
The impeachment inquiry is not an impeachment of Hunter. It's an impeachment of Joe.
Yeah.
Let's stay focused on that and know now that there was contact made between the subject and the witness. That's a big deal.
Concerning breaking the law.
Right.
Yeah. Which is obstruction of justice, is it not?
That's a whole new line of questioning.
Because it came up yesterday, I think, Representative Biggs about, Swalwell set up this whole thing.
Yeah, and ISA said, look, this is, you're approaching.
ISA said, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he also said it's contempt of.
It's contempt of Congress.
That it's aiding and abetting contempt is what Swalwell would be guilty of.
Yeah.
According to ISA.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Electrical systems are one of the most common causes of winter breakdowns. So when your batteries talk, it's important you listen. Keep an eye out for the warning signs that may indicate your electrical system needs attention to help avoid getting stuck out in the cold this winter. The most obvious sign that a battery-related issue is present is if your truck has trouble cranking at the proper speed. If you experience any sluggishness when starting your engine, get a full electrical system check from a trusted service provider.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. So much to talk about. More on the impeachment inquiry and where that might go. Also, the other story, and I really didn't see much about this at all, and this is the negotiations that the Republicans are having with the White House. And Andrew McCarthy had the article on it yesterday in National Review, and it really didn't, like I said, it really didn't get as much. I didn't see any other coverage. And again, I was busy yesterday. Maybe somebody did. But I didn't see it in print or online. All right, it may have been on TV somewhere.
Right, yeah.
But this is where the Democrats are negotiating to allow 5,000 illegal immigrants in a day. That's what they want. And the Republicans are saying, no, 3,000.
No, it's 0,000.
It's like, what in the...
No, nobody.
Blank is going on.
It's zero.
It's like...
We're so doomed.
I know.
Happy holidays. Have some eggnog. Red Eye Radio.
I can actually. I said yesterday there's going to be a problem the next week because, the one good thing is Congress won't be around next week.
Right.
So maybe, but it's tough to be outraged about some of the insane things when you're coming out of a Christmas song.
Right.
But I can flow into this now because we didn't talk about this yesterday either.
Yeah.
What? The White House Christmas video.
Oh my gosh! What was that? What was that? What was that?
Did you see?
You know what I thought it was?
You see where somebody put Biden's face and Jill's face on the. It was like people in the White House and they superimposed their faces on the dancers.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh, yeah,
no. Okay.
Yeah.
What? What was that? Because I could see if you wanted to have something where you set up just a stage and you've invited, I don't know, kids, university students, protesters. I don't know. And you put on a show and they're part of. I still wouldn't understand is that what they call interpretive dance? Is that because I think something is lost in the interpretation. It was strange. It was weird. You know what I thought? I thought some people had broken into the White House. I thought, man, they should call the Secret Service agents.
First thing I thought was, they found more cocaine.
You know what it reminded me of? Remember the Batman with Michael Keaton?
Yes.
Remember the Joker? And then, kind of that everything that surrounded the Joker when he came out and the Prince song was playing and the whole thing. And, he just kind of had this, it's supposed to be odd because it's the Joker. And that, it just reminded me of something out of a kind of a cartoon movie or something, a Batman. I expected, the Joker, Joaquin Phoenix to walk through. I was like, oh, man, this is going to get good. And it never got good.
Well, look, I know a lot of conservatives got upset about it, but the fact is, this is expected.
Oh, yeah,
so,
yeah.
Mock the idiocy of it, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over it.
No.
I did like James Woods. I think it was James Woods who's like, oh, yeah, this makes me think of the birth of Jesus.
Yeah,
that's what
that was. I was trying to make the connection.
So I know.
Because that was it. I don't know what it was. If you want to have an event about interpretive dance, I'm sure those dancers work pretty hard. Okay, great. But what does that have to do with the Christmas celebration?
And then he put out later on, James Woods, Joe Biden claims to be a Roman Catholic. The fundamental tenets of Catholicism derive from the celebration of Christ's birth and his resurrection, Easter.
Yeah.
And then they shows the Easter one with the, I don't know what the character is, shaking their butt at the camera.
Yeah.
And
then
and then the Pride one with the topless, the topless woman, and then
right, yeah.
The Christmas whatever the hell that
whatever
was.
that was. Did you see the still shot that had the kind of it was very representative of the dancers. Picture a still shot side by side with Melania standing in front of the trees, looking about as elegant as a person could.
Oh yeah,
it's like the difference between the Biden White House and the Trump White House.
Well, something, and this is when you ask how do you relate to people, if you're talking about you're part of the communication staff of the White House, what are you going to do on important holidays and something like Christmas or Easter or whatever,
right?
And I go back to yesterday's show where we started talking about, I was amazed at the comments that we got yesterday when we just started talking about the things that, as we get older, whatever, the things that that we see, the music that we listen to, and everything else that relates to all the traditions of Christmas.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that when you talk about Christmas, it's the history of the tradition. There's the religious aspect of it, which is a huge tradition.
Yeah.
But then there's the celebration that people have had that is quite spiritual. Even people that aren't necessarily religious, understand the spiritual part of it.
Right.
And if you're going to promote something to relate to the majority of the people, if you're a politician and that's your goal, the last thing you do is put out the video that they put out yesterday. You look at this and you go, what the hell is this? No. I want a beautiful Christmas tree.
Maybe some carolers or something.
Some carolers.
I mean, I don't know.
Right, exactly. And, because and part of the left, and let's be honest, part of the left hates those traditions.
Oh, no, they want to totally erase all
right.
of those traditions. No doubt.
They want
Many of them.
They want to take the holiday and make it something. They want to make it something radical, leftist, political of, the day. And you saw, for example, the dance group and the, what had come out afterwards about the stances that they have taken, all radical stances
of
on
course,
everything, all absurd. Are they really people that celebrate Christmas? No. And so you look at it and you go, all right. But the thing is, that's not even, when you think about it, remember, did Joe Biden approve that? Did Joe look at that and say, that's great?
That's a good point. That's a great point.
Or is it his staff running everything? And I say this because, and this the media really doesn't want to cover a lot, but his staff was out in front of the White House protesting Joe's position on Israel, which they know, I think the reason they're protesting, they know he's saying he's pro-Israel, which he is not.
Right.
And they know he's not.
Right.
And they're angry that the White House staff that was protesting that he won't take their pro-terrorist positions.
Right.
So he probably he didn't come up with that. He delegated that. Yeah, you people do it. That are the most think about this. His staff and so many of his administration, and we're not making the allegation without evidence. How do we know? The protest that were the staffers and the hundreds upon hundreds of people that signed the memo that called for a ceasefire,
right.
3 weeks ago?
Right.
And so they're pro-Hamas, they're pro-terrorist, they're pro the Nazi mindset that exists in the elite colleges of this country, as we see at Harvard. It is a pro-Nazi mindset. There's no doubt about it. Go back and look at what the Nazis were doing and the justification of it, and look what's happening today. That's why there's so much shock where people are like, wow, they're actually open about this. They're so open about it, and it's so obvious the difference between Israel, which is a modern Western democracy, and Hamas, which is a terrorist group.
Right.
And it's just, and so when you put it there into perspective there, this is the kind of thing that they throw out, and I believe they do it intentionally. They want people to be upset about it.
Yeah,
the staff does. I think so because
too.
Everything is about their insane leftist radicalism, and so I'm not upset about it at all. I mean, I mock it because I expect it.
For me, it was laughable. It was entertainment.
Yeah.
I'd rather they not spend taxpayer dollars on it, but whatever. They're going to spend taxpayer dollars anyway. And I'll say this, too. I was asking myself afterward, well, why not just bring a full, and I joked about it. I mentioned protesters a minute ago. Why not just bring the pro-Hamas protesters in, and instead of singing Christmas carols, they do their chants. We are Hamas. We are Hamas.
Yeah, maybe some kind of new Christmas song, "Down by the River" or something like that.
River to the sea or something. Yeah. Yeah.
And call it a new Christmas carol.
Right, because it is, as you just point out,
it's what they believe.
These are radicals.
Yeah.
I don't need to see the dancers in tights. Have them grab their protest sign. Let's see what they actually believe. I mean, we see it day to day, but why put on a happy face for Christmas? What are you doing there? Bring in some protesters. Show yourselves to everyone at Christmas time. This is what, and during Hanukkah, this is what exactly is going on. It's so insane right now.
I know.
You heard about the protest? It goes back a ways outside. Did we talk about it? Yeah, we did yesterday on the Jerry Seinfeld, and there was something else to that story. I forget what it was that we didn't cover. I'll think about it in a minute. But it's these are the people that are just as radical. It goes all the way up to the White House. It's the president. It's his staffers. Maybe not every single staffer, but it's throughout his administration. It is a common thread.
Oh, yeah.
They are radicals. Let's think about it on the way in. The Barack Obama years. And people will think, well, he was very well put together and he could, hold an intelligent conversation. Not like Trump or even Biden, Obama could. All right. But let's talk about his behavior. Let's talk about what he ushered in. Let's talk about the radical transgender movement that he officially ushered in with a joint edict from the Department of Education and the Department of Justice. And it was about as radical as it gets. And he was, too. He was just more put together about it. He just had a different tone.
Yeah, with the Seinfeld thing, I mean, to add anything, I mean, the critics came out and said targeting Seinfeld, who is an American Jew who supports Israel, is anti-Semitic.
Yeah,
that
right,
part
right,
came out yesterday. But and I like this one though. I was just reading from a couple of different articles here. He's an American, you idiots. The pro-Hamas protesters are so misguided. God help us, one user on Twitter, X said.
I think that was it. And a couple of other fellow comedians, I don't know if they even know Seinfeld, but they were talking about saying, do they understand that he's not Israel? And they're not Hamas. Except they are when they chant,
they're supporters
we
of
are
Hamas.
on they were chanting that on one of the campuses.
Well, when
you have to own that.
When you come forward with the ceasefire, when you're the president who doesn't say it in public but says it at a private fundraiser, the bombing is indiscriminate, you're anti-Semitic at that point.
Exactly.
Because you're lying in order to hurt Israel at the same time politically, you have to take one position. I guarantee that's why the people are protesting.
Oh, yeah.
Because they believe that the president's only doing it, the only reason that he is supporting Israel is because of the politics of it, that he does not support Israel. That's why they're out there protesting. That's why they're upset.
Right.
And they want him to be pro-terrorist against the United States and our allies.
Right.
It's insane right now. I like this one, though, because this is how insane it is. Because picketing Jerry Seinfeld for Palestine is the dumbest thing I've heard in the last 20 minutes. Because that's every single minute. When you think it can't get any worse, you get the mayor of Boston. And when I saw the headline, the mayor of Boston apologizes, I go, yeah, she had to apologize. And then I read further in the story.
She was apologizing that other people found out.
Right. She apologized that she didn't keep the fact that she's a racist secret.
Right. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to send that to everybody.
My God. And that's the thing. That's the thing that's changed since October 7th.
Yeah.
The racism, the bigotry, the intolerance, the hate has come full force, and now they're blunt about it. And a significant number of Democrats are absolutely blunt about it now.
Yep.
And you see it inside the White House right now.
Right.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara.
See, sleep in heavenly peace, you radicals. You can't do that, right? It's a joyous song. It's like, okay, I guess we'll talk about the radicals later. We'll give it a 30-second window, and then we'll talk about the radicals.
Coming up, we'll talk about, it's mind-boggling. Here's a headline. Why would Republicans agree to 3,000 illegal aliens crossing per day? That's the headline. And it's from somebody totally legit. It's not like a somebody who you view as a radical. It's Andrew McCarthy.
Yeah.
Why? Goes, why are the Republicans, what in the world's going on?
3,000 a day.
That's the compromise they'll make with the White House, 3,000 a day.
No.
In order to get the funding for Ukraine. What?
What? I don't get it.
God.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. We made it to a Friday.
We did.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
I know we can say it for the next week.
Yeah.
We know, by the way, we do understand today is not Christmas before we get criticism. You guys said Merry Christmas. It's not Christmas yet.
Yeah. And Hanukkah ends today. It runs through today. Yeah. So next year I was putting a calendar together. I get my wife a calendar every year with pictures of the grandkids and everything on it that she uses in our home office. And notice that Hanukkah next year starts on Christmas Day. Begins on Christmas Day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas.
Yes. Yep.
And it's interesting because we've been yesterday reflecting on things that we connect with this time of year. I still have an issue with Mel Torme and the Christmas song, from 1 to 92. We're going to change the words, I think. What?
We walk out of here.
Yeah.
All right. We walk out of here, and my phone was, on Pandora from coming in.
Right. Okay.
When I came in.
Right.
And so it hooks up automatically.
Okay.
So my entertainment system takes about, you back out, it takes about 30 seconds to, everything to get up. So I'm going down right the side street here. Mm-hmm. Nat King Cole, Christmas song comes on.
The best version, in my opinion.
I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable.
Because I was joking yesterday that it's discriminatory.
Yes.
For kids from 1 to 92. Well, wait a minute. Newborns and infants don't matter. It has to be. You have to be at least 1, and then at 92 we're cutting it off. So I thought we'll change it. Nobody's going to do this, but if I'm just singing it around the house, and let's hope nobody listens. I'll say from kids day 1 to 122. And I know what you're thinking. Well, what about, that person 100 that's maybe 123 years old? My advocacy only goes so far. So you're on your own if you're 123. So for kids from day 1 to 122, that way we get everybody in. Because your dad, the other day I hit it. Kids from 1 to 92, because my dad is almost 91, and I'm thinking, God willing, because, hopefully he's going to be around. And your dad, 97 now?
97.
And, wait a minute. John McNamara deserves a Merry Christmas from Mel Torme. Come on.
I got my Christmas present yesterday from my dad.
Yeah.
I called him up. The phone, rings a couple of times. He's got he's got his cane and his walker, and sometimes it'll ring a lot, and then it'll actually go to the answer machine, and I still wait. Then he'll pick it up.
Right.
It rang like 2 times, And it was like 2 times. Hello, good morning, Merry Christmas. I'm like, what? I'm like, wow, that pacemaker is really having a great effect on you.
I love it.
It's like, wow.
That's great.
I was like, wow. I go, Dad? And I've talked about it that he's always had, and you saw, I think it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago? Maybe
was
3
it
years
that
ago?
long ago? Yeah, I think it was about 3 years ago.
It was 3 years ago where I went back to see my dad, and he was just sitting on the couch, and I'd gotten in it. Probably I took a night flight in, so I got in about 10 o'clock, I think it was.
Right.
And we sat down, and he just started talking about, I don't know how it was. I don't know if he was talking to one of my brothers and sisters that was over, but he was started talking to me, and he goes, well, when I used to work with, 90 minutes later, the monologue ended.
Yeah.
I never got a word in, and I took my phone out, and I started recording it. I didn't tell him. I told him later.
It was
a
so
couple of months
great.
later, and he's just sitting there and he's talking about. Remember the German. When he worked at because my father worked on the propulsion system and other systems of the first intercontinental ballistic missile, the first series of that, the Minuteman missile.
Wow.
And so he worked. The German scientists at Bell and stuff were there. And I think it was about 3 years ago because we were talking about he was mentioned about classified documents and stuff like that.
Okay.
He said you couldn't help. These were classified documents of an ICBM.
Right.
Because people couldn't help bringing some stuff home.
Right.
It's impossible not to, and so he was talking about working with some of the German scientists who would come over post World War II.
Right.
And it just was, he didn't stop. And I'm waiting for a pause.
Right.
And I'm thinking, oh, you know what I got out of that conversation? I went, I know where I got it from.
No, it was the John McNamara show, totally. And the visual was great, too, because when someone is talking, and I said this to some friends recently, when some younger friends, when older people are talking, the younger people should listen. That's basically the point I was making. But we as a younger generation should always try and learn something and listen. And when they're talking, and the visual of it includes the reckoning as he's making points in his eyes, and he's making those points and going through. He's not mumbling. He's not struggling for words.
No.
The ever present mind of an engineer at work, telling part of his life story about his work. My dad did that and opened up to me one time. We were it was also a few years ago. My mom's oldest sister had passed, and we were at the wake for her, which was this big celebration and really of her life. And at one point, it was just me and my dad at the table. My mom had gone to another part of the room to take some pictures and be with her other sisters and her remaining brother. And Dad started talking to me about his time in the Air Force and the time also that I remember as a child of what he did. Police chief chief of police on Laughlin Air Force Base and everything else, but saying that basically in D.C. they were calling on him to go over to Korea and be in charge of all the SPs. He was a security police officer. All the SPs in Korea. And I said that would mean we would have moved to Korea.
Wow.
And as an Air Force brat, we never lived outside the U.S. I was born in Omaha and then lived in Texas from the age of 4. So I'm not one of the Air Force brats. Many have, lived in Germany, lived in, other parts of the world. And I said, wow, we would have. And he said, yeah. And that's when I was invited to be promoted to senior enlisted advisor and under the wing commander. And then a few years later, I retired. And so, but anyway, he was telling me this story, all these things that I didn't know. And when your dad was talking, it was just one of those moments. And I think that was before my dad had that conversation with me. So now when I go to mom and dad's, we talk about a lot of things. Dad and I always have our little talk show in the living room back and forth. But it's imperative, My dad went to Korea at the age of 18. Then he got out of the Navy, got into the Air Force, and went over to the Vietnam conflict, part of the SP 66th, and all these things. And he doesn't talk about them. And you'll find that those generations, they don't talk about it because they don't brag about it. Now they will have conversations about it, but they're not always talking about it. They don't make it about themselves. They make it about the experience and what they were a part of. And that's very different.
No, it's a great point.
And the generation today, and I remember a few years ago, we went to a graduation for one of my nieces, and the student that gave there was one student that gave this big long speech and the whole thing, valedictorian speech, and he talked about he was going to run. He was a conservative, by the way. Said he was running for office in 2032. It was pretty funny. But he talked about himself a lot, and my daughter said on the way out, he just talked about me. And I said, well, he's part of a generation that has grown up with a website, multiple websites with his name on it, Facebook page, Twitter, whatever at the time. And other generations didn't talk. They didn't make the conversation about them. There were some that did that, but for the most part,
politicians.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't, and you would just go. You did the job, and when you came home, you tried not to complain, and we didn't. And that's the thing too. Those that went to war, they came home clearly with PTSD, and as a society, we didn't know how to deal with it. We didn't know what it was, and they used to call it. They were shell shocked or whatever terms that they used. And never really recognized, the help that was needed for many of them. And when they are, if you've got somebody in your life that's older than you are, and they're telling you about their life, make all the notes you can.
Well, when you think about it, this my dad has been alive more than a third of this country's existence.
That's amazing to think
about it, because he's 90. So he's, he
was born
26
before the Great Depression,
1926. Yeah.
Think about this in a few years. Think because this hit me the other day too. Actually, yesterday, and we might expand on it more because I'm thinking at the 100-year mark of the Great Depression. Think about all the stuff that's going to hit with. All the unfunded mandates that are going to hit with like Social Security and everything. It's going to hit at the same time. Our debt is growing. The interest on the debt is growing, and all these things that are coming at us. And we're coming up on that, in several years, that 100-year mark of the beginning of the Great Depression. But you think about someone who's been around that. Think about what he's seen in 97 years.
How technology has improved.
Yeah.
And that's the. When I read the I can't think of the name of the book, but it was on the Lewis and Clark expedition, and so it was about the late 1700s and the fear, and they talked about, the author in the book, how what hasn't been passed down in history is the fact that we live in a relatively fear-free society today, and talking about every society fear-free when it comes to illnesses,
right? Yeah.
Or diseases,
right.
Or infections,
right?
That there was a paranoia of dying in human society on a consistent basis. You valued life. You went to war.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I mean, people knew they were going to die because if they got hit, infections killed so many more.
Right.
And you think about it until you really got antibiotics, and you think about MASH.
Mm-hmm.
But MASH was the beginning of war, where not that you didn't have. I guess you had sort of triages, even back to the Civil War, but the MASH units to get in there and get all that done, and the antibiotics to stop the infections. I mean, everything changed, and they related the fact that my father didn't have polio, but two of his brothers did.
Right.
And you think about everything, and my father remembers actually the quarantine in people's homes.
Yeah.
And so many diseases, and then you think about the cars that they drove. My father had to crank his first car.
Right.
Didn't start. He had to crank it.
Yeah,
And
my
you know,
dad's dad drove an
and-
REO Speedwagon in 1921.
wow.
Yeah.
It wasn't. He didn't play any of the crappy.
No, he
tunes
didn't.
on
I
the
think it was
radio,
called
did
a
he?
Rio Speedwagon, not a REO, but
Oh, okay.
people would relate REO Speedwagon, but Rio Speedwagon truck. He was one of the early trucks did not have pneumatic wheels, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Solid
that's right.
wheels.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they played the good REO Speedwagon, the early stuff when they were considered progressive.
Exactly.
Not the ballad crap.
Yeah.
And so you hear those stories and everything else, and he remembers. I mean, he remembers so clearly. My grandfather was putting in the water line in 1939
Yeah.
for Orson Welles.
Wow.
You know, when the War of the Worlds, and he still talks about it. He goes, "Yeah, we came running in. Dad, there's aliens." He goes, "Yeah. Could you hand me the wrench over there?"
It's the same approach as today. Hey, there's a 12-foot alien in our backyard. Yeah. But what's on Twitter?
And what's up with Tucker Carlson? Just to bring this, we got the
I
alien
don't-
stuff.
I don't know.
Where he was, when Tucker Carlson yesterday put out a tweet, or 2 days ago,
Yeah.
put out a tweet as if he knows because of that whistleblower that absolutely aliens exist, and we have talked to them
That
because
there's
of
been
that whistleblower.
contact by the government, I
Right.
think is what he
Yes.
implied.
And he didn't say there might be.
No, he was saying,
He was
look,
what
you know,
what the hell's wrong with
he
it?
was stating it as if
It's
he
true.
fully believes it, and it is
Right.
true that there's been contact between the U.S. government and
Yeah, what,
aliens
I
from
know
other
I changed
planets.
the topic, but it was
Well,
I just brought that up.
it's weird because that's it is really I don't know.
Yeah, that was just bizarre when I saw that. 2
I don't
days
know
ago.
if it's because he might. I'm guessing he fully believes it. I don't think he's lying about what he believes. But my question would be, what's the basis for what he believes?
Yeah.
Are you going just on the whistleblower stuff, or is there something else that?
Yeah, it seems like he's going on the
Yeah.
whistleblower
Yeah,
stuff. That
right.
one, I can't think of the guy's name,
Right.
but everything he talked about was hearsay.
Right. That other people saw.
Right. So I have no idea. But I guess the point is of all of this, I think the best history lesson over the last 100 years for me is my father.
No,
All I have to do is talk to my father.
It's honestly my, my dad for a lot of things too, and I think that's it. There's so much more to learn than what is in the books. Is what it took for things to happen, and what the different roles were during a foreign conflict, right? What it was like. I mean, to me, that's just amazing. My dad hitchhiked to the Naval Air Station here in Fort Worth. It would be a 1-hour car drive today, is where he lived, but he hitchhiked.
My father got over to Japan right after the war,
Yeah.
and was basically based out of Tokyo that was flattened.
That must have been
And he just
unbelievable.
He goes, "You can't believe the
Yeah.
for miles. Everything was flat." He goes,
Just-
"Everything was flat." He
yeah.
goes, everything was bombed out.
just gone.
He goes, "You couldn't believe people were still alive."
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, what a great history lesson.
Yeah, for sure.
And hopefully, I'll have that for a lot more years to come.
We pray that you will.
Yes. 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Uncompensated detention at docks frustrates drivers of all stripes. If you're an owner-operator, you have at least some control over the matter. Make the subject a standard part of your rate and/or contract negotiations on the front end. You can use your own numbers to calculate an hourly rate to compensate for lost income opportunity, as well as fixed costs, which don't stop when the truck stops. Those two elements of a fair detention rate were deemed appropriate by most of Overdrive's audience almost a decade ago. We've used income, fixed costs, and miles average of our owner-operator business services from ATBS's clients to compute an average $64 an hour detention rate then. And 10 years later, the figure is $83 an hour. Use your own numbers to calculate your rate. A simple conversation with any broker or shipper, or your carrier if you're leased, about what you're putting in the rate might yield results you don't expect. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Friday Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, here's the headline. We'll get to it following the bottom of the hour. Why would Republicans agree to 3,000 illegal alien crossings per day? That's just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
The other thing is on inflation. You were just telling me something. Go ahead, tell them.
Well,
I don't want to start what you were telling me.
Well, it's interesting because there was, and we'll talk, maybe expand more on it here in just a few minutes. But Chef Andrew Gruel, a great follow on X if you don't follow him. But this is a small business owner, restaurateur, and a critical thinker. And what he said, the impacts of small business that go beyond what's going on the markets, and we'll talk about
inflation.
With inflation,
right.
And we'll talk more about that.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Now, wait a minute. Is this the first song that the White House wanted to use for their video?
Yeah.
Is this the song they first wanted to use?
No, because this is a Christmas song.
It was just the unique keyboard beat.
What's funny is I was thinking of a smarmy line, and the truth worked just so well, didn't it?
Yes.
No, this is one they were considering because it's a Christmas song.
So they could not have been.
It couldn't have been something in consideration.
Right. Okay, my bad. My bad.
It wasn't Christmas. People.
So I'm earlier. Well, when I woke up because he submitted this after I was already asleep.
Mm-hmm.
But Andrew McCarthy, why would Republicans agree to 3,000 illegal alien crossings per day?
Right.
He said, I was struck by the excerpt in the Washington Post about the negotiations between the Biden White House and congressional Republicans. They are discussing a compromise in which Biden would agree to tighten border security in exchange for Republicans greenlighting over $60 billion in aid for Ukraine. Israel and Taiwan funding are in the mix, too, but those are less controversial than the Ukraine piece. What's reportedly being discussed is a triggering mechanism that would empower government agents to close the border to illegal aliens. Migrants. Asylum seekers. Not surprisingly, Democrats do not want border closure triggered until 5,000 illegal aliens, and that's, by the way, that's the official legal term.
Right.
That's why he uses it, until 5,000 illegal aliens have crossed. Republicans object to this. But led by Senator Tom Tillis, a North Carolina moderate, they have signaled to agree to 3,000 illegal crossings a day.
Uh-huh.
This may be the line of line of the week for me, McCarthy. I see two huge problems with this.
That's putting it lightly. Yeah.
First, it is the law of the United States. You know, the thingy that President Biden took an oath to faithfully execute, that a non-American who enters the country without legal authorization, even if that American that non-American is the exceedingly rare one who may have a colorable asylum claim, is to be detained until a final determination over his status has been reached. And then he notes the part of the law. At that point, the vast majority should be deported. And the comparative handful found to have credible fear of persecution should be granted permission to stay. Post-sovereign progressives do not believe the United States should have borders. They call the tune in the Biden era. Their theory is that the executive branch need not comply with the letter of the law because aliens supposedly have a right to attempt to qualify for entry under the relevant legal process, that they may not be turned away, and B, there is such a backlog of immigration that would be inhumane to detain people until their cases are resolved, which would take years. To me, this is absurd. Asylum is a discretionary extension of a privilege. No alien has a right to it. and people who enter the country in which they have no lawful license should be expected to be detained. If that's not a risk you want to run, don't come. Since it is unlawful for you to be in the country at all, don't expect to be at liberty. Democrats also counter that the detention law that Congress prescribed should be ignored because lawmakers have not backed it up by providing adequate detention space. There are facilities for only about 30,000 people to be held. Because the detention space is overwhelmed by the number of illegal crossings, over 4 million since Biden took office, Democrats deduce that Congress has implicitly improved the release of illegal aliens into our country by not funding more detention space, indeed reducing it during the Biden years, notwithstanding the staggering increase in illegal entries. This, too, is absurd, given that the law mandates that aliens who cross illegally must be detained. The logical implication is that the border should be closed once we have maxed out detention capacity. I say this as a prelude to what seems to be the starkest implication of the bipartisan negotiations. The border can be closed. In essence, two sides are just haggling over the price. The fact that closure is legally and practically achievable has been established. That being the case, why isn't the border closed when the law forbids catch and release? To be clear, I could not agree more with Jim's observation that in negotiations, neither side gets everything they want. To get, you have to give. But here, we're not talking policy negotiations. We're talking about what the current law is in the United States.
Exactly.
It's not as if there isn't a law and then you negotiate.
Right.
The law already exists.
Right.
For all the brouhaha over a House impeachment inquiry that is scrutinizing the Biden family business of monetizing Joe Biden's political influence, what Biden most deserves to be impeached over is the gross dereliction of his duty to secure our borders. I'm not surprised that Democrats are saying we want to indulge lots of law breaking. What I find astonishing is that the Republican response seems to be, we'll go along with lots, but not lots and lots. I accept that compromise is essential to governing in a democratic republic, and while I am against funding, not just foreign aid, but any funding that fails to account for debt consequences, we're soon to pass $34 trillion in national debt, I am in favor of countering Putin's forcible aggression and helping Ukraine inflict damage on Russia's armed forces without having to commit U.S. troops. Yet Republicans are not so much being asked to compromise as to conspire in Biden's law breaking. And not petty law breaking either, but rather a betrayal of the core security duties of the presidency that is destroying the social welfare and law enforcement capabilities of America's border states and major cities. Given how boiling angry much of the country is over this, I don't understand why Republicans aren't driving for a much harder bargain. Second, as I previously related, during the Obama-Biden administration, then Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson, who carefully followed the daily illegal crossing numbers, observed that he got major panic in days when it exceeded 1,000. 1,000 a day overwhelms the system, which is what causes a crisis.
Exactly.
Contrast the current situation. We're no longer counting a crisis. We have a raging crisis. These are days when Biden's policies result in 10 or more times the number crossings that Johnson conceded was too overwhelming to handle. I understand why Democrats would want to normalize illegal crossing. Totally 5 times what Johnson conceded was too overwhelming, which is when you do the math amounts to 1.9 million annually, a total larger than Phoenix, Philadelphia, and other major American city, say 4. But why would Republicans counter with an overwhelming times 3? To put it in context, 3,000 a day is about 1.1 million a year. That is bigger than the population of each of Fort Worth, Columbus, Indianapolis, and San Francisco. It would be like annually allowing enough illegal aliens into the country to fill Boston or Milwaukee twice. It would exceed the population of 7 states and Washington, D.C. Biden's border policies have been so disastrous, have so enraged even blue city Democrats, according to NBC News. Republicans now hold an 18-point lead in public opinion polling about which side is more competent to handle immigration. During Trump's presidency, Democrats enjoyed a 6-point advantage. Why on earth would Republicans? So if you look at that, okay, if you look at that overall, you're talking about a 24-point, swing.
Right.
Why on earth would Republicans agree to a number of illegal alien crossings that until Biden's presidency would have been regarded as historically catastrophic? That's the problem, one of the problems that we have with Republicans.
How in the world does it happen? Because the number is 0.
I don't think they can get that through the House.
I don't think they can either. I really hope I'm right about that.
You know something? I said that, and then I went, I might be wrong.
No, that's when I said it, when you heard the, yeah. That was the queasiness hitting.
Yeah, I might have been wrong, and I figured that out 1 second later.
It's seriously. That's maddening that any Republican would suggest 3,000 a day. I'm sorry, did you mean year? With a very high standard for each of those 3,000?
And the law states, and as he pointed out, this is the greatest point, the law already exists. It's supposed to be 0.
It's none.
And so they're negotiating.
Well, tell me what it looks like.
With Democrats to how far are we going to break the law by?
Because if I'm a liberal right now, I'm going, well, you got the GOP to go okie dokie on 3,000? I didn't think they would get anywhere close to that. Now, we hope we're right about the House and that they'll hold the line here, that as hopefully more and more Americans learn of this and the word gets out, that they hear their constituents loud and clear. The number is 0.
And I know some are going to say, well, this is why we need a third party. Well, you may be correct, but it's not the no labels party that's going to solve this.
Yeah, it's not. It's I know what you were saying. I know the sentiment, but you got to walk it through. And by the way, speaking of walking it through, let's walk through that 3,000. Let's say 3,000. Okay, how do you write that? For anyone in the GOP that's saying, okay, maybe 3,000. How's that going to work?
And what was our major concern when we heard that the White House was saying, okay, we're willing to negotiate? What was our concern?
Well, the concern
we
was
said,
that
how are they going to write a law to do this?
How do you force them to spend the money and get the job done if you were to get that through? How do you force the administration to actually do the job?
We were overly optimistic.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. It's not the White House we have to worry about at the moment. It's the GOP. Because 3,000, here's the thing, 10 as many as 12,000 a day right now, they say. All right? When people hear that, they're probably going, oh, my gosh. Andrew McCarthy does the math on 5,000 a day and 3,000 a day. And what that means, 10 to 12,000 a day, everybody should be outraged. They should also be outraged that any lawmaker is suggesting 3,000 a day is okay. Because if you told me 3,000 a day instead of, when the word came out, 10, maybe as many as 12,000 a day right now, if you had told me 3,000, it still, to me, would be alarming.
But here's the point. You just you would change the current law, which says none.
Right. What does it look like? How are you going to write that?
To a minimum, you change a permanent law to say 3,000 illegal immigrants can come in the country every day.
Right.
And the Republicans
How-
view that as a victory?
You're basically creating a permanent hole.
Tom Tillis in North Carolina views that as a victory?
No. No.
Does anybody agree with Senator Tillis on this, the Republican?
No.
No.
You shouldn't.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, the thing is, you look at this story, why would Republicans agree to allow 3,000 illegal immigrant crossings per day? I mean, that's part of the negotiations that the Senate is having, and apparently Tom Tillis from North Carolina is leading it. And that's completely and totally unacceptable because you're basically saying we want to get rid of the law that we currently have, which says zero.
You're creating a permanent hole.
Right. And you look at it, and it's like, as he points out, we've talked about it, we knew that the White House would be willing to negotiate because the problem is so bad.
Right.
If you're ever going to win this and say, no, we want to follow the law, we're not going to do this, we need to follow the law, it's the time now because the public overwhelmingly agrees with you. If you can't win, you cannot back the administration, the completely and totally incompetent administration that is some of the lowest numbers of any administration, and on this issue, some of the lowest ever.
Yeah.
If you can't convince the American people and you cannot push through something to follow the current law, then you're never going to solve this problem.
It's never going to happen.
Ever.
Right. Exactly.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. How's everybody doing?
How's it going?
Horrible? Oh, okay.
We're doomed.
How are you doing yesterday?
We're doomed.
Horrible.
We're doomed.
How are you doing tomorrow? Horrible.
We're
okay.
doomed. We're doomed. And
at least things are consistent.
And Merry Christmas to one and all.
It was interesting because you and I, we love how the media and the administration, you know, for example, after the Fed ruling, you know, they're out there celebratory as if all the problems are over and things are going to be great. There was actually a couple of articles written yesterday saying, oh, the economy really could bounce back and Biden could ride the economy to the, 2024 victory. And it's like, stop it. There's a ton of problems here. One of the reasons, as we said on yesterday's show, that the Fed is talking about lowering rates is because they would lower rates in order to speed up the economy because it's slowing down.
Right.
But the other thing about inflation that nobody is talking about, and I went through this. It went on so long that I went from a young teenager to somebody in my mid-20s. That's how long inflation took to cure. And you had the Reagan administration come in, and you had interest rates at 20%.
Yeah.
That's how they had to finally do it. And there was the ebbs and flows where they went, okay, we finally got inflation cure over and over and over again.
Right.
And I thought it was important because you were telling me a story that you were reading about a chef that was Chef Gruel that is well known.
Yeah.
And that was talking about when he was asked about the question about at his restaurant and stuff like that. I mean, does he see because the politicians are promoting, the Democrats and the media, okay, this looks like everything's going to be fine.
Right.
And what did he have
Well,
to
that's
say?
it. I mean, you see the markets just, cheering this whole thing on, jumping hundreds of points the other day and jumping a little bit more yesterday. And so one of Chef Andrew Gruel, by the way, is a great critical thinker, small business owner, and someone especially during the COVID era when so many small businesses, including especially restaurants, were being shut down as local regulators, state regulators were, closing doors and everything else. And the servers and staff at those places, were going through really hard times. And he was and still is a very great advocate for his industry, of course. But the question came up from an ex-follower of his, not a former follower, a follower on X. Name it something else, Elon, would you?
Yeah, I know.
All right. So the follower asks Chef Gruel, may I ask, with all this celebrating going on about the markets on CNBC, have you seen lower costs in your businesses from suppliers? And I think the follower, it sounds like the question is set up for, Chef Gruel asking basically, hey, Chef Gruel, would you explain as a small business owner what you deal with? And he did very well. I reposted this, by the way, on X. Not at all. And we won't. A few good weeks for overvalued stocks isn't going to trickle its way down to small business. Also, there are more, this is where it gets good. There are more factors leading to increased prices than pure cost of goods. Insurance costs are going through the roof. New regulations that come with hefty fees, energy input costs. They want to ban using gas, including in restaurants, natural gas. Availability, I threw that in. Availability of labor, lawsuits, and he writes it's nuts how many lawsuits are hitting small business, and the consumer's general lack of disposable income. He hits it on all fronts from the perspective of a small business owner. How much is still working against not just those small businesses, but of course, as a result of that, then on the economy. When we talk about inflation, okay, I've never thought that Jerome Powell, as Fed chair, has been serious about inflation. I still don't. We talk about the labor inflation, the cost of labor, because we have so many job openings and few people to fill them. That's going to continue for quite some time, I believe. Labor inflation will, and you can't cure that just by raising the interest rates a few points here and there. You would have to go big like they did back in the day, but you can't do that right now because the national debt is so over the top. Imagine if they did what they did back then. Oh my gosh, the interest rates or the interest payments on the national debt would be crushing. So then I coupled it with an article that I saw in Business Insider. Seriously, what's going on at Business Insider? It seems they used to lean more liberal, but they've been bringing a lot of at least truthiness to the table. And it's based on an interview that was done on Fox Business News. And this is the comments of Jim Grant. And he's called a Wall Street guru. He's an economist. And he is the editor of Grant's Interest Rate Observer. But the point he makes, and here's the headline from Business Insider: inflation is permanent, and you'll never regain your lost purchasing power. Something we've said when we talk about how the inflation is compounding. When you see the inflation over and over again and say, well, inflation is dropping. Yep, it's still the case that prices are going up. And remember that inflation hit its highest rate in recent years of 9.1%. And we're still going up. We're not seeing deflation. Few prices here and there have come down, but the basket, our cart of items, those items are still going up. And it's important to pair those two things that I saw yesterday together. Chef Gruel pointing out what it costs to run a small business and how you have to pass that on to the consumer. You can't just sit there and lose money, even though John Taffer will tell you a lot of people will will do that to the very end. But
Why?
Chef Gruel is someone who is, and you can tell he's a very smart guy. He's a critical thinker, but it's important that we hear from small business on a regular basis. Small business, I believe it's still the case that collectively small business employs the most people. But when you look at, and we talked about insurance rates for auto insurance, we know homeowners insurance has gone to the roof, but business-related commercial policies are also going through the roof. And then you look at the cost of government. This insane idea of you can't use natural gas anymore. Talk to a chef and tell them you can't use natural gas. Ready? Go. I mean, I'm sure they can put something very tasty together for you, but can they run a restaurant that way? And the answer is no. And they wouldn't run a restaurant that way, yet they're being forced to do it. Why? Well, because the left says we got to get rid of natural gas. Remember why we, as a nation, are the leader in dropping greenhouse gases, and that's because of fracking. That's because of natural gas. That's because of the rise in the use of natural gas in recent years. Nobody talks about that on the left. And by the way, we don't measure things in greenhouse gases. They do, but we're saying if you use their standard, but
Well,
still,
and
it's got to end, they say,
Right.
because,
And it's important to point out the forcing people to use electricity instead of natural gas.
Right.
You have the electricity which has to be produced. The actual natural gas going to your stove is much more efficient than having to use that same natural gas to actually
power the electricity to get to the stove.
Right, to power the plants, to produce the electricity to send it to you.
Right.
You have the redundancy and the resistance of the electricity getting there.
Right.
And it's the electrical engineers have already come out immediately and said, well, it's not as efficient. If you're trying to do something to get rid of global warming, if that's what you believe, this does the opposite.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter
Right.
whether it works or not. It's all about the image is the correct image to have, which is just the most bizarre thing. But we saw it already, the Keystone Pipeline.
Yeah.
The Keystone Pipeline, the president canceled it because of global warming. All of his administration that has to deal with global warming, including John Kerry,
Right.
his energy secretary, his transportation secretary, his climate czar, all said it was the wrong thing to do. If you had the Keystone Pipeline, you would put less global warming gases into the atmosphere.
Much more efficient.
You'd still keep those union jobs.
Right.
But hey, just go code, learn to code. He got rid of thousands of union jobs for no reason at all, except it was the right image, according to his own staff.
Yeah. Climate czar, energy secretary, and transportation secretary all said it.
All said it.
All said it. The very first climate czar, and not just any climate czar, it's John Kerry.
The ultimate climate czar.
By the way, I just realized he passed up Al Gore. Why didn't he nominate Al Gore for first climate czar? Wow, that's a diss against Al Gore. He should have been the man, right? I mean, he's the rock star in the whole climate change thing.
Yeah, I'm the rock star.
I'm the rock star.
We need to put climate change in the box.
I have 9 houses. This is
Remember the box?
yeah.
What was that? What was that putting the Social Security and Medicare in the lockbox?
In the lockbox.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was the lockbox, not the box.
Yeah.
Put it in a lockbox.
Yeah. Yeah.
God, they really Democrats really do think. Republicans at times do, but Democrats are consistent on it all the time. They think the voter and the American citizen are complete idiots. Now they have
they do.
They have good reason to think so because they work against the best interest of Americans on a consistent basis, as they're doing right now.
And they still win elections.
And they still are like, geez, how's Biden just a few behind Trump?
Yeah.
He should be 50 down.
Right.
And it's like, whatever. So let's keep going.
Right. Right. No, I mean, that's it. I mean, they look at it and go, oh, well, people are cheering us on and they're still voting for us. But this is, when you look at the breakdown of where we are, and this is why I think when Grant said that, Jim Grant said that on Fox Business News, you're not going to regain the purchasing power you once had.
No, you're not.
You and I have talked about it. We don't know how the generations behind us are going to afford, essentially anything. If you look at, and we brought you you had the numbers the other day about, how many Americans are just not making ends meet. We're at that point. And it is cyclical because, so then what's the next thing to happen, right? The next thing to happen is, this is why labor inflation comes into play. Because we aren't, we don't have a growing pool of individuals for that workforce. And there is such a, right now, and hopefully it's going to be the case, on legal immigration right now politically, I don't know where that goes. It's not going to happen anytime soon. We're also not having babies as a society. So you have this basically musical chairs, revolving door of labor pool. People have to ask for more money. Well, those employers are going to pass that on. That's labor inflation. And until that workforce, that pool of potential workers grows, and we're not going to see it for years, that labor inflation will be in play.
And I had somebody wrote me yesterday saying, you guys keep talking about the labor pool, but all the illegal immigrants and migrants are in, and they can easily replace it. No, they can't.
No,
not the new jobs. AI, the jobs that the low skilled jobs that the majority of the illegal immigrants could fill are disappearing.
Right.
The jobs, and there's a disconnect already. We've talked about the disconnect, the jobs that are open, and there are actually, the people that are out there, still a huge disconnect. They're not trained to do the jobs because the jobs are going to be highly scientific, technical kind of jobs that exist out there.
Yeah,
and that's why you will need, and Trump said it. We always talk about it. People forget, as Trump has been called a racist and he's xenophobic and wants no, immigration at all. When he got into that, the whole Jim Acosta getting kicked out, their discussion was Acosta not listening to Trump, as Trump was saying, I'm for legal immigration.
We want legal immigration.
If we're going to have an economy that booms, if we're going to have 3% growth, or I think he might have said 4 or 5 or 6% growth.
Yeah, I think he said something like that.
But whatever, even if you have 3%, if you have 2% growth, you're going to need massive amounts of highly educated people. They're not in the United States.
Yep.
You have to go and get them. And he said legal immigration is going to have to increase. There's no chance. And by the way, with what Tom Tillis and the Senate Senate Republicans are trying to negotiate with the House, you're never going to get there if they do that. If they allow 3,000 in a day, you're never going to get the United States. Nobody wants legal immigration anymore because of illegal immigration.
Right.
They don't trust.
You're not even going to start the conversation on legal immigration because of what's going on right now. How in the world does the GOP, anyone in the GOP, do something like that? It just boggles my mind. And you said it earlier. It bears repeating. If you can't get it done on securing the border right now, GOP, you'll never get it done.
Never solve the problem, ever. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I mean, it's you when we talk about in inflation and where the economy is going. You can't live in the delusional world that the politicians are living in,
right?
And that many economists are living in.
Yeah,
you've got to shoot straight, and you have to look at all the barriers ahead and what it's going to take for us, and understand how the economy is changing.
Right.
And you have to understand it. And, we've complimented Trump here because we talked about, Trump understanding when he was with Acosta that we're going to need massive legal immigration.
Right.
The birth rate's down here.
Right.
You cannot run an economy without people. And with this new economy, you're going to need highly educated people.
Right.
He was right on that.
Yep.
Now, his whole thing about when I become president in 2024, a 10% tariff on everything that comes into this country, it's like, what are you, nuts? I mean, you were so right there and so wrong there. Everything is prices right now. The public is relating to prices. The last thing you do is say, I'm going to come in and I'm going to artificially raise the cost of everything.
Yeah.
And if he wouldn't be able to do it.
Right. He wouldn't get that through.
He wouldn't get it through.
But don't make it a campaign promise.
Don't make a campaign promise. I'm going to raise your prices in 2024.
Right.
Now, what he's saying is I'm going to punish foreign manufacturers, but you've got to complete the sentence that then they will retaliate on the United States. Everybody will have higher prices. Manufacturing goes down.
Yep.
Everybody's paying higher prices to begin with, begin with. Nobody wins, but it's sort of the argument of it's sort of the same thing Biden. It's an image kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm punishing these people.
Right.
And I'm punishing, for Biden, I'm punishing the oil companies. I'm punishing. Now, China's a different ballgame.
I was about to say, China's a different game. And if Trump makes it back into the White House, we should all hope and pray that he's able to get China in order in terms of their intellectual property rights violations that they have been doing for forever. Because if we don't do it with Trump in office, it's probably not going to happen. But that's a big hill to climb. But don't make a promise that you're going to raise prices, especially when you know you're not going to be able to do that anyway. It just doesn't make any political sense at all.
When prices is everything.
Exactly.
Walking in a winter wonderland. Gary and Eric on Red Eye Radio.
That's some nice guitar work there. That's actually because that's from down the hall, right? Alan? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's from a studio right down the hall that it was produced, not live, but it's produced in a studio. Our business partners and the business our company used to own, TM Studios, used to be TM Century. Now it's TM Studios. They do jingles and really cool stuff down the hall. They've got a cool studio.
Yeah, that is a cool studio, isn't it?
They really do.
Yeah.
And they bring in some very good music. To do that kind of work, you've got to be a really great musician.
I remember a couple times. They were in there really late at night. I mean,
yeah.
We'd come in and there's singers down there and everything else. We don't see them much, but I've only been in the studio once. I left the door open one night. We didn't steal anything.
No, but it was like, oh, this is nice.
And we're like, wow, look at this.
Yeah, no, it's posh. Wood floors, big kind of open setting, because they'll bring in all types of musicians, as you can imagine, for the work they're doing, jingles and commercials, and they are top notch. They're the best at what they do.
They are.
Yeah.
All right. So, was it just me yesterday, or did it seem like the last 36 hours really to coincide with all the Hunter Biden stuff that the media is just going absolutely paranoid about what Trump would do if he became president? And I'm going to give you an example. This was on MSNBC. And this is Miles Taylor. Miles Taylor is the guy that wrote the op-ed piece in the New York Times. Remember, I'm the anonymous resistance of the Trump administration.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yeah.
This is that guy.
Wow.
Now, just listen to this because, and I noticed yesterday, especially on social media, it's like, wow, they're going really, here's the Trump, the world's going to be destroyed, blah, 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 blah. Now listen to this one because this was at what Donald Trump may do. And there's one specifically in it. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right, here we go. All right. Here we go.
I think Americans still don't understand the full extent of the president's powers and things Donald Trump could do, bubble wrapped in legalese, that would be damaging to the republic. And one of those that I've noted is there's something in the White House called the Doomsday Book. And for the first time, DHS gave authorization for me to mention this publicly. And the fact that there are concerns that that book, which is supposed to be used to protect the country in instances of armed foreign invasion or rebellion, it's the president's most extraordinary powers, could be picked up by Trump and used for domestic political purposes. He could invoke powers we've never heard a president of the United States invoke, potentially to shut down companies or turn off the internet. Or
Do we have to go any further?
Yeah, right.
Turn off the internet? That's
Right.
why I said that was the one I went, shut up, you idiot.
It's but these are the radicals that believe in that kind of behavior.
Well, that's like saying, look, he's making it sound like, and this is something new because this, and the DHS has allowed me to do it. What? Mayorkas said, hey, we need to come out with something. Go ahead and tell them there's a doomsday book. Hey, there's also a thing called martial law. We're not idiots. The president has extraordinary powers in times of war.
Right.
If he abuses it, he can be stopped like that.
Yep.
I mean, that's like saying, I'm amazed he didn't say, Trump's going to push the nuclear button.
Right.
He's going to turn off the
Shut
internet.
down the internet.
Shut up. What an idiot.
Because you know what? He knows that's how he's going to, he believes that's how you're going to motivate people on the left. Trump's going to close your Facebook page. And by the way,
I can see it. Republicans are going to shut down your TikTok.
yeah. And by the way, it is true. He is going to do that. But quit telling everybody. He's not going to do that until his third term.
And you won't know about it because there's no internet.
Exactly.
You won't even know
Yeah.
that Trump is serving a third term.
Right.
The republic will be destroyed. Trump will be in a third term.
Listen.
And Americans won't even know about it because the internet will be shut down.
Everything will be fine by the time Barron takes over. Just one after the other. Oh, my gosh. Because if they're going to do all this fear stuff, he's not going to leave the office. He's not going to leave the office. He's going to turn the internet off.
I like that one. I mean, that one was when I went, wow, you've just I don't know. I saw Fonzie over that shark, in his leather jacket, and jumping.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, by the
There it
way,
is. Uh-huh.
for anybody under the age
Of,
well, it is. There are the repeats around all the time.
I guess. Yeah.
The
Okay.
repeats around all the time.
Yeah. All right. Well, for anybody under the age of 50, cable television is to get the repeats. Yeah. Listen, let's just start a new one. I heard Trump is going to outlaw bubble tea and interpretive dancing at the White House.
Under the Trump administration, he is not going to have any interpretive dancing during the holidays. That's gone.
I heard he's going to outlaw continuing to wear a mask.
You'll be punished for wearing a mask.
You get a fine, a federal fine.
Yeah, let's help out the Democrats here.
We'll
Let's
just
help
start
out.
some new ones.
This for the next year could become
Yeah.
a segment on the show,
Things Trump is going to do when he becomes president.
or he could do.
Actually, here's the thing.
He could do.
A lot of people, our friends on the right, are going, oh, yeah, if we could get rid of bubble tea and people would just stop wearing masks, I think it'd probably be and interpretive dancing? I mean, come on. That's a win-win-win. I know nothing about bubble tea, by the way. I've never tried it, so I have no idea. Seems like it would get stuck in the straw. But I have no idea. I don't know how it works. And don't write me because I don't care. This is just the insanity of the left. Builds so much fear. Gary, it went from he's a Russian operative to he's going to turn off the internet. Hey, guys, he's going to make sure y'all hit the subscribe and like buttons, by the way. And he's going to turn off the internet. Hey, listen. On tomorrow's podcast, we're going to tell you how he's going to turn off. Click the subscribe button and hit the like button.
Does Trump have that kid from The Core? Remember the movie The Core?
Yeah.
Does Trump have that kid from The Core working for him? Remember that movie The Core?
Mm.
Where they needed to shut down, they need to control everything on the internet because the core of the earth stopped spinning.
Oh, yeah.
So remember everything.
So they got a kid to,
they found,
to help out,
Yeah, they found this kid who was like a hacker. And the whole thing is we need you to shut, basically, the internet needs to keep working, but you need to stop any flow of this information, of any rumors about the core is spinning and what we're doing to try to stop it.
It could be because I heard he did ask Matthew Broderick into the war room to go through a possible scenario of what would happen in a nuclear.
Oh, wow. We're really going back now in these movies.
That's retro right there.
Oh, that's really retro.
War Games.
Oh.
Google it. It's a good movie. That was a good movie. For the time, it was a good movie. Today, that movie would take about 10 seconds.
I remember watching that. I remember enjoying the movie.
No, it was a good movie.
Yeah.
It was one of those.
What was the name of it again?
War Games.
War Games. Yeah. That's actually,
But based on, because it was, hey, for the kids out there that are going to see this for the first time, the War Games, don't laugh. Those were the computers we had back then. In fact, we didn't have any. Only apparently the Pentagon had them and Matthew Broderick.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I thought it was a good movie. I mean, it was a great idea of, hey, what would happen, and then all of a sudden you have these, Ferris Bueller, and he shows up and his girlfriend, and then they're, playing on a computer, and all of a sudden we go to war possibly with Russia. That would be fun.
But he would be more of a prognosticator like he was on Ferris Bueller.
I think so. Look directly into the camera.
He'd be
and be
talking
frank
about
with the
how everything is screwed up in the
listen,
world. But think about this: if because it is a legit political discussion.
Mm-hmm.
If now you see, and that was on MSNBC, and talking about the fact and Trump could shut down the internet. So if that's the starting point, 11 months out, that's the starting point to make you paranoid. What's next? I mean, what are they going to say Trump will do? Because you could look at it and you say, okay, the next thing is, but they already said it. You couldn't trust him, remember, with the nuclear buttons. That was already said. That was now I guess you could bring that could be an oldie but goodie. You could bring that back. That Trump, who has spent his entire life, as you and I have said, building things.
Yeah.
Building things and building buildings and, creating and building, that his ultimate goal is to destroy everything.
Exactly.
I mean, it goes completely against what his entire life has been about.
Right. But they had to take it to extreme, of course. And look, Biden can't be trusted with the buttons on his jacket. So
did you see him yesterday? He was completely incoherent yesterday.
It's serious.
It was horrible yesterday.
Well, you saw him the other day. I know we didn't talk about it with Zelensky, and Zelensky just had to butt in and go, my turn, dude.
Well, it was funny because Karine Jean-Pierre was asked the question, is there going to be an end-of-the-year press conference? Are they going to do anything? She goes, he just held a press conference.
Right, yeah.
He took 2 questions.
Right. That's not a conference. Is he going to be in the Rose Garden anytime soon?
And doesn't answer the questions, just gives a statement, turns around and walks out. It's just like, wow.
Is he gonna, but no, that's it. Because you can't put him in front of the media. You really can't.
The thing is now what do you, because we really haven't got into what happened yesterday. You had the, what's her name, Wolf, testify, and we found out she quit the Department of Justice a few weeks ago, it says, and she wouldn't answer any questions.
Right.
And as you and I have said, the whole thing on Hunter Biden, and, because she was the one that apparently made the decision. That's what the accusation is. She's the one that said, we're not going to investigate, the Joe Biden connection on this.
Right.
And
Right.
so they want information on it.
Right.
And it's like, they're giving the same thing. Well, no, the DOJ told her she can't, really talk about anything. And, because the investigation's going. And it's the same thing we heard from Christopher Wray. But the point is, when we talk about not going after the statute of limitations or letting that expire, that case doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
You can talk about that case.
You can talk about that all day.
That's like saying, well, back 10 years ago, Hunter had a DUI that they didn't prosecute. Sorry, we can't talk about that because he's currently being prosecuted for something else completely unrelated to that.
Right.
I mean, it's a bogus argument.
Right. Right.
And so everything they're doing is about hiding the truth from the American people.
Yep.
And so she really, they didn't get anywhere with her. I didn't think they would.
I didn't think they would. No.
And a lot of people are like, well, they're not getting anything out of them. Who was it? Somebody wrote yesterday the exact same thing. Was it Charles Cook? Somebody wrote the exact same thing we have said. That, probably it's really a good thing for the Republicans just to stretch this whole thing out. Because as long as everybody won't answer it, they can keep getting. You remember, the archives told them they're going to give them millions more of emails now.
Yeah.
They're going to have, and it's like, it's time. Maybe it was Charles Cook. He said, it's time for Republicans now over the next couple of months. It's their show, meaning now they have the opportunity to present everything. And I'm like, wow, that's exactly what we've been saying.
Right.
You had the reporter say, well, aren't Republicans going to be ticked off because some Republicans because you haven't impeached them in 2 months? And I went, I haven't heard any Republicans say that that impeachment is the goal.
No.
I mean, there's been a few.
Well, a lot of people are calling for him to be impeached, but the process will tell the story. And take your time. Do it thoroughly.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy Hanukkah.
Christmas.
No, Hanukkah ended yesterday, right?
No, through today.
Through today? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
yeah.
Good.
And, So, happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas.
Here's the other one. We're talking about headlines.
Yeah.
Yesterday. That's why I said, okay, the media's just really jacked up on this, after we heard on MSNBC that Trump may stop the internet. Hunter Biden worried he'll have to flee the country if Trump wins in 2024.
Yeah, okay. All right.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning.
Hello. Speaking of which,
what? You go.
It
I was ready
is
to
that
go,
time of year. The must see Christmas movie, Die Hard. I started that, by the way. I was the first.
Yeah, I will say you did a long.
It was about 18 years ago.
It was 18 because I started working with you 18 and a half years ago. So no, it was 18 years ago. Would have been our first Christmas.
Yeah,
Eric.
right.
18 years ago was our first Christmas together.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Hallmark movie.
Yeah, where one of us believes in Christmas and the other one doesn't. One of us lives in a small town. The other one lives in a big city.
And we're radio talk show hosts.
And we're radio talk show hosts. Wow, that sounds like a horrible movie. I don't gain anything from that at all. But yeah, so
Eric, we need to talk. Let's go out for hot chocolate.
Yeah. Look, our entire town is made of hot chocolate. Come on over here. We got a fountain of hot chocolate. It's right there in the center of town. And we have flawless clothing. I just changed a tire on my old pickup truck, which has flawless paint, and my clothing is still flawless, and I didn't sweat at all.
And our hair is perfect.
Because of, Christmas. Because our town believes in Christmas, not like you big city folks who don't believe in that. Let me guess, you guys are into interpretive dancing?
Eric is into interpretive dancing. Gary isn't.
Oh, what happened at the White House? My gosh, that was weird.
Oh.
So, yeah. So, anyway, welcome to Hot Chocolateville.
Well, if you want to say part of liberalism, the part of liberalism that's really interesting is how odd it is. How odd the marketing of what they believe entertainment is.
It's forced.
Yeah.
It is forced. It is contrived in the biggest way. And I know, look, that's, all marketing is contrived, and you hear, hi, this is Eric. Hi, this is Gary. Tune in for our show. We don't actually talk like that in real person. So when you hear
your
so
voice
marketing,
went up so high you hadn't entered puberty.
Hey,
what's going
Hey,
on?
listen to our show nightly. Or we're the station that cares.
Or you could puke.
Hey,
let's go.
Hey.
Glad you're here.
hey.
My father, that's the one thing in radio he picks up.
Don't forget to wear a coat.
My father, I'll say, yeah, saw this talk show host first. My dad, even at 97, is he a puker?
Yeah.
And coming from my father,
Yeah.
I don't know why, but coming from a 97-year-old man,
especially
his eyes gleam. Is he that guy that you're talking about on the radio? Is he a puker? I go, no, Dad,
funny.
he's not a puker,
Funny.
not at all.
Sound like
Dad.
a puker to me. That's funny. That's funny. No, but I do have to watch some Die Hard. I do. Got to get back to the Hans Zimmer. You ask for medical Theo, I bring you the FB.
I've got to watch the very rare movie that is one of my favorite Christmas movies. It's so rare you can't find it on DVD.
Okay. Which one?
29th Street. I've talked about it before.
Yeah.
Danny Aiello.
Right.
What is it? Anthony LaPaglia? Is that his name?
Right. Mm-hmm.
That has been in so many things.
Right. Yeah.
And it's about it's about New York State's first lottery winner going back, I think, to the late 60s, early 70s.
Mm. And
it's called an Italian It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay.
And you can find it on YouTube for free.
Okay.
Now, the only thing is there's a lot of F words in it.
So make sure the kids are there.
Yeah, right. Exactly. There's a lot of F words and interpretive dancing.
That's right. Make sure grandma and the kids are there. Interpretive dancing. Oh!
Well, the funny thing...
The cursing actually happened after they saw the interpretive dancing.
Well, the funny thing is, I told you it was a couple of weeks ago where I went, and I talked about it then, but I was invited to go to my coffee shop to witness an independent 5-part, pilot TV series that they want to sell to one of the streaming networks, Hulu or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was at the coffee shop I go to, and I'm in the coffee email, and so they invited me. So I showed up.
Right.
And I know the owners, and I went, okay. So it was a Friday night, and so I took a nap in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, I just got tired, took a nap, and it was supposed to be there at 7 o'clock. I get up like 6. I'm completely exhausted. I'm like, yeah, go ahead. Go. You got to do something. You got to have some kind of a life besides the radio, and you're not golfing because of my knee.
Yeah,
So
right.
get out and do something.
Right.
So I'm like, all right. So I dragged myself there. An hour later, there I am standing in line in a scene with a talking part. And apparently I did well because I got the call earlier this week. They were shooting again on Tuesday, and the director, who is Italian, and it's it's about the Italian mob, said,
Right.
I got this idea about, and I don't have it all worked out yet, but I thought maybe you could come in and do a couple of shots. This was on Tuesday, back at the coffee shop, but I couldn't because I'm sleeping and have to work, and this
it's a work day. Yeah.
this takes priority over everything. It's just I wouldn't even try.
Right.
Could I do it? Yes. Would I do it? No, because this gets total priority.
I would have, but you decided not to. Yeah.
Yes, I. And then he says, "Well, I'm still thinking about it because you're Irish," and I said my name in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
You used your real name.
Yeah, so he's got that. Even though everything is done, basically everything is done, he's still thinking about maybe shooting one more scene where I'm talking with him to use in a future, for season number 2, because it's the cliffhanger. And he said, I'm thinking of some kind of angle with the Irish mob. I'm like, really? Well, I'm in. And I told him, I said, I'm free every Friday and Saturday night unless I'm visiting my dad, if you want to shoot.
Right.
But I told him, because, I told him, I said, you ever seen 29th Street? Because it's, the mob is involved in this movie. And I said, since you're doing something on the Italian mob, and making it, I'm not sure what city his TV series is supposed to be in. But I told him, it's called the Italian, the Italian, It's a Wonderful Life. He goes, oh, okay. And I think he will like it. And again, I've just met him once, but we hit it off immediately just talking, and he was so generous.
Right.
I asked questions. How do you do this? How do you make the sound? What's going on? What's the technology?
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I can't bother him too much, but my mind was just working. He answered every single question. And so it was really cool. So I'm officially retiring from radio, and I'm going to Hollywood.
Awesome. That's great. We'll be waiting. Oh, wait, you're back so soon.
I've decided I'm going to go serve tables in Hollywood.
Right. Yeah. Well,
find an agent.
Yeah. That's the thing, when you start trying to get projects that are greenlit, and then they start asking the Axios question. Why does it matter? No, they actually do this. And I was watching some Hollywood folks talk about this recently. There are things that, unless it's got some underlying purpose. Well, how about entertainment? That's all you guys are. I mean, if you want to make a social statement about something, that's been done. And when it's done well, it can be watchable. There are plenty. I mean, in fact, how many movies about Vietnam, right? That were true to life and also weren't true to life, except for the fact that it was the Vietnam War, right? So there are things where you can look at it and go, okay, a social statement is made here. MASH was on the air for years, was a huge a comedy on television, and it was set in the Korean War, but it was really a statement about the Vietnam War based on the era of when it rose. And so that's nothing new, except for today. Now it's just all about that. And the fact of the matter is that, hopefully this project gets picked up and, is entertaining and is about, again, something that whatever people want to watch. I think people, if they feel like they're being preached at or told something is wrong with them, then it's like, well, why am I buying into this? Why am I paying for that?
I didn't get the sense. What I got the sense is, and again, by the way, I need to make it clear, just because somebody might have just tuned in, and I know I'm going to email. I'm not retiring from radio and going to Hollywood. I'm kidding.
No, you're going to do movies from here.
I'm going to do both.
Actually, Texas could turn into a new.
They're building just a few miles from me a massive studio to do television, movies, and everything.
Austin is picking up production on a number of things, and
I'm fascinated by and we've talked about this, by anything that I'm not involved in, what the business model is.
Oh yeah, I love that.
And the producer, director, lead actor, Mark Rios is his name, lives here, and I'm just fascinated by. I'm just watching him, how he does it, and how they do it. And then I think the whole thing, well, this is the last of a 5-part series.
Right.
I'm sure it's low budget, but you've put commitment, you put a year in commitment into just producing these 5 episodes with the hope of selling it. Now, it's based on a short film that was played. I forgot which streaming network carried it. So it's based on that. So that's why there's interest in it.
Right.
But it's like, wow. I'm fascinated by the business model, the calculated risk that you take in doing it, and then, his mind, it seems, he's got a, producer, but he does everything. He'll be in the scene, but he's directing everything, then boom, and they do it so quickly. I'm so impressed by, and the actors that were there, and the assistant director,
right,
and just the people involved in it. And it's such a small group because it's an independent movie, and you realize you don't need these massive, infrastructure to make movies anymore.
Right. The technology is totally different.
And there's so much demand. And that actually fascinated me more than actually being involved in the acting part of it. That was fun, but observing other people do something that I find fascinating that I will never do in my life.
Yeah.
I find that just the most thrilling thing to watch.
Standing behind Peter Bogdanovich on the set of the movie
God.
Texasville.
I can't believe you did that.
I didn't even realize what I was seeing at that time. I didn't fully appreciate it. It really sank in over a period of years of, wow. Now, unfortunately, it was the sequel to The Last Picture Show, which was, it was hailed as a great movie. Texasville, not so much. But it was the process of watching it. Jeff Bridges, Sybil Shepherd, and then the director, Peter Bogdanovich, and watching all that play out was fascinating all day.
Did you ever see the John Ritter biography about what they're best friends?
Yeah.
Him and John Ritter.
Right.
And
John Ritter was in The Last Picture Show, I think, right? Wasn't it?
I don't know. But also Larry Miller.
Yeah.
They were like all best of friends. I'm like, wow. And it was funny because when I watched that biography, to see a serious and sad Larry Miller.
Oh, yeah.
Because you just don't see that ever. Was like, whoa. But,
yeah.
Was he in it?
I think. Why was I thinking that he was?
The late John Ritter, just so.
Right, yeah. There's a question on Google. Was there a sequel to The Last Picture Show? No, there wasn't, and don't look for it.
Are you going to really watch Die Hard?
Yes.
Okay.
Is
that really a yearly appointment movie kind of thing that you have to do?
Yeah. I don't know that it'll happen between now and Christmas Day, but sometime between now and the end of the year. Because our last vacation coming up, it's always between we're off between Christmas and New Year. And so my wife most often does not have a lot of time off. So that leaves me doing projects and everything else. And I usually sit down with a movie or two along the way. And that one is definitely one of them.
The funny thing is I saw it on social media. There was a debate. It's like, no, Rambo First Blood. And they had the scene in the bar, and they got Christmas tree and Christmas lights up.
Wow.
And the people are arguing back and forth. And I'm thinking to myself, one thing I've noticed this week, and maybe it was because of the Kansas City-Buffalo game and the whole ref stuff that was going on, people really invest a lot in arguing about things passionately and putting everything they have into it of things that are basically useless.
No,
that aren't important in the world at all.
I mean, they really
on social media. It's like, wow.
Okay, I don't see John Ritter's name.
Yeah. At least if I lose it, it's on an issue of importance.
Yeah, exactly. Look, if you're going to go, hog wild on something, then make it count, right? A lot of people do spend a lot of energy on things that are like, okay, calm down, take a breath. Not really relevant.
or not that important.
Or certainly
They
not
may
that
be
important.
Temporary, emotionally important when it comes to the sports team that you're watching. I guess I've been there, but after 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 days, let it go.
Exactly.
8-6.
You know what I was thinking of, by the way?
It's easy when the Bills win, though.
I was thinking John Ritter. I was thinking Sling Blade, which kind of has Last Picture Show isn't like Sling Blade, but I was thinking about that. He was actually John Ritter was in Sling Blade.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking of that movie.
Yeah, that was a little departure from what he was normally known for, wasn't it?
Man.
That role. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep. 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. When driving, you need to manage the space around your vehicle so that there's enough space to allow you to adjust when traffic conditions change. The space ahead of your vehicle is the most important and one of the easiest to monitor and adjust as needed. One rule of thumb is to allow at least 1 second for each 10 feet of vehicle length at speeds below 40 miles per hour. At greater speeds, add an additional second. It's impossible to keep other drivers from tailgating you, but there are some things you can do to make it safer, such as increasing your following distance, avoiding quick lane changes, and slowing down. There are also several things you should do to ensure that there is plenty of space between the side of your vehicle and other vehicles. Don't hug the center line, avoid hugging the right side of the road, and avoid traveling alongside other vehicles in strong winds, especially crosswinds. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, I'm thinking, I don't know what to call this new segment coming up here following the bottom of the hour.
Yeah. What?
It can't be a liberal racism update. Oh, okay. A new story of racism, because there's been so many stories here over the last couple of months.
It's hard to know what is new.
Just another comment, and this is on the Boston mayor.
Mm.
And also, what's going on inside the White House right now because of Hunter Biden?
Mm.
What's
Wow.
actually happening inside the White House? Are there any clues as to what they're actually thinking? And some of the polls out there.
All right.
Did we talk about that Nikki Haley in the one poll was up by 17 points over Biden? Is that a poll from a few days ago, or is that recent?
No, that's a little bit older.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I saw the number, I went 17? Really?
I know.
Okay.
It seems hard to believe, doesn't it?
We did talk about that.
We did.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, something I just wanted to mention, since we're just having fun a little bit when I was saying about, that I've realized this week that, on social media, people are arguing about stuff that, they just go crazy arguing about stuff that's not important I was actually on a Seinfeld website, and people are furious at each other based on what would Kramer or Jerry be doing today.
Yeah.
And they actually get angry about it. No, maybe do that. It's like, wow. And you're thinking they're being sarcastic, and all of a sudden you realize these people are being serious. And I said the same thing about sports, referees, the whole Kansas City Buffalo game. But then Buffalo apparently got screwed over I didn't see any of the games, but apparently got screwed over the week before, is what they're saying on a couple of calls. But people go crazy on it. And I'm thinking to myself on social media, it's like, wow, they're more angry over a game or a TV series, a hypothetical over a TV series. And then there are people that will actually put in there, because somebody will sit there and say, well, why did they do this on Seinfeld? Or I'm just using Seinfeld as an example. Why did they do this on Seinfeld when obviously that couldn't fit the timeline? It's like, because it's make-believe?
Yeah.
Well, they should still try to be. They should still try to be accurate to the time period. It's like it's fiction.
Yeah.
And they just don't understand. And then there's this huge fight that happens. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's okay to observe this for a couple of minutes, but I'm going to move on very quickly. I want to see the crash.
Yeah.
You know, I want to see the crash.
That's why I like it when it's come to a conclusion and everybody's gone to bed, you know, and they realize how bad it was. They're like, oh, I shouldn't have been a part of that. You know, and they disappear from social media for a week or two.
Yes.
They come back after New Year's going, hey, how's everybody doing?
And so we were talking about sports a little bit, but I wanted to mention this because when I had mentioned Buffalo and Kansas City, it's something that we covered, and it really hasn't made the news. Remember when the punter, who was they called him the punt god, Matt Ariza?
Yeah.
Remember the whole sexual allegations against him? And the Buffalo Bills let him go?
Yeah.
And he's considered one of the potential is to be the best punter ever in the history of the NFL.
Right.
He had a couple of, when in preseason, 70-yard punts.
Right.
In the air.
Right.
I mean, these things were monstrous. And they cut him because of it. Well, the civil suit has been withdrawn. Remember, they said they couldn't find anything. The civil suit has been withdrawn. And
wow.
they made a deal that, they cut a deal, which is that, it's over. She will not sue him again. He can't sue her, but he can sue her lawyers.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
And he was out. I was playing it for you yesterday, some of the where he's out just saying, look, this has got to stop. I didn't do anything.
Right.
He's absolutely out there. I didn't do any of this. I wasn't there. This didn't happen.
Right.
I was set up. And look at what happens. Look what happens in this particular situation. But I'm just thinking, again, I don't know all the particulars, that the investigators might know or whatever. But the fact is, it's important that when somebody is completely exonerated, even in the civil case, yet he still can sue. And he talked about how he wanted the ability to sue the lawyers because he believed the lawyers pushed it, the civil suit, more than she even did. And he's, so he said, yeah, I may sue them. We're discussing it, but I want to get back in the NFL because, but my name has been destroyed my entire life. I just think it's important when these things, when all the legal things are done, to spend a few moments talking about it.
Yeah.
Because this was something that was talked about hour after hour, day after day after day after day for a couple of months.
Right. Look, there are things that apply here, on scale and we've been saying this since the whole Russian hoax thing. As you watched Trump as president when he was in office, I said repeatedly, I wouldn't have been able to hold it together. Being falsely accused of something like that. Trump kind of played it like I won't say like a game, but as it comes with the territory. And whether you're globally famous, household name for decades, or president, or both, it's part of the territory. Maybe was his mindset, and that's how he compartmentalized it. I look at things like that, and we talked about it, and Trump has plenty of lawyers, and, he's going to have to defend himself on, or is defending himself on, in these cases and indictments and everything else. But we said this abuse of power is so dangerous because if they'll go after a Donald Trump, who won't they go after? Then when we saw the situation with the FBI whistleblowers, I was sitting in parking lots taking down license plate numbers of parents. Think about this, because while this is a civil case with this NFL player, his name and career was destroyed.
Yeah, it was criminal investigation first.
Yeah,
and then
right, which went away, but it was, and the lasting effect, though, was still there.
Yep.
Everything was gone. Remember what the situation was with Michael Flynn. Look, say what you will about Michael Flynn, Donald Trump, or any. It's not the point. It's the fact that the abuse of power to go after, in this case, political opponents, but to what extent? Again, parents who are issuing grievances at which they are supposed to do at school board meetings and things like this. It becomes especially dangerous. But what they were saying, with the Michael Flynn case, we'll break you. You just will, everything you have, all of your wealth and life savings will go into defending yourself, and nothing will be left.
Well, when you look, and I'm glad you mentioned it, because I talked about when I was on a plane. Was it Thanksgiving? Yeah, it was when I was going back for Thanksgiving, and met a great young man, and he said he was a liberal, and he goes, "No, I don't talk. I stay away from all politics, religion, all that."
Yeah.
He goes, "What do you do?"
Well,
I don't stay away from politics and religion.
I move seats on airplanes, so I'll be seeing you later.
Yeah. And I said, "Well, you're not going to be too happy, because that's exactly what I do for a living." And then, we started talking, and really, as I said, he was a moderate conservative. The only thing he wasn't, all his opinion was based on Trump.
Yeah.
On his hatred towards Trump. I mean, he's somebody who you could say has TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. Mm-hmm. And I started talking about Russia collusion. I said, well, that, I'm sure because it's been in the news, he was set up by Hillary. The only one that colluded with the Russians was Hillary, and that was Iggy Danchek. I'm telling you, he's got a blank stare in his face. He said, I haven't heard that.
The glaze over his eyes, like people get? Yeah.
Yep. What the hell are you talking about?
Yep.
I've never heard that. Right. He goes, you don't sound like somebody. And at the end, he goes, you really don't make stuff up, do you? And I said, no. I said, and so you need to look into the other things that you were suspicious of whether I was being accurate or not. But I said, what you got to understand is there is no debate on this. Nobody is debating that Hillary didn't set Trump up. In fact, Democrats are using it as sort of a badge of honor. Right. She was able to screw over Trump by lying. Right. And then I went through the whole process of, Perkins Coie and everything else, and then the FBI involved in it. And he's glazing over. He's like, what world are you coming from?
Right.
And it's like, I'm sure that when the news came up, that's when he turned it off. As Maureen Dowd once said about her friends,
right. Ignore
if it's something they don't want to hear, as soon as they hear it, they turn it off. And so they actually don't know what happened in these particular cases. They know that Trump, he knows that Trump didn't get indicted or wasn't found guilty of anything Russia collusion, but knew none of the details as to why.
Right.
And I said, yes. He goes, well, yeah, I just didn't pay attention to all the stuff that went into it. And I said, well, this is what went into it. But, so you talk about that. Then you mentioned think about the FBI whistleblowers that came forward and how the Democrats raked them over the coals when they came and they said, no, the Department of Justice is not doing their job when it comes to Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. They've been hiding this. They've been doing this. And then the sweetheart deal came out, and they were still attacking everything, the credibility, the patriotism of these FBI whistleblowers who put everything on the line. And what did we find out here in the last week? If it wasn't for the whistleblowers, well, number one, the whistleblowers were right. Number two, if it wasn't for the whistleblowers, Hunter Biden would have skated on now what the same Department of Justice is saying is an absolute felony, and he was evading his taxes.
Right.
The other thing is, my voice went up there, didn't it? The other thing is, think about this.
Hey, we might
not
have
one
at Leno's garage.
Not one. Did you see you see the View yesterday? I mean, I'm sure you didn't see the View, but you probably heard about it or saw the audio cut where the View was talking about. Well, look, so he didn't pay his taxes. A lot of people don't pay their taxes.
Yeah, right. Yes, I did. I saw.
It's like well, it's not about paying your taxes. Yeah. It's about tax evasion.
Tax evasion. That's very different.
I don't know.
Do they know the difference?
Yeah, I don't think they do.
I don't think they do.
But this is tag. There are people that can't pay their taxes.
Either that or they do, and they're lying and want people to believe it's no different than not paying your taxes.
You don't. If you fill out your tax form and can't pay your taxes, you don't go to jail.
Right.
You're not charged.
If you report what
right.
you make accurately,
there are no criminal charges.
Tax evasion is when you don't report it.
Tax evasion and fraud on your taxes is completely different. And so The View was arguing and justifying what he did based on something that has no relation to what he did.
Exactly.
And think about this. The Democrats, if it was anybody else who didn't evaded their taxes like this, who was rich and elite, as he once was, with the money that he got and blew it, as he did, and then lied about his taxes, the left would be up in arms.
Right.
But if it's our person, they can commit whatever crime they wish when it comes to something that we say the rich need to pay their taxes, the elite need to pay their taxes, except if it's somebody who's on our side, then we don't care, and we'll make excuses.
Right.
And they were doing the whole love thing, too, and then you heard they went after influence peddling. Well, and they went after, what's his name, McCain.
Right.
Meghan McCain. And said, and we're implying, well, somebody who sat here, basically wouldn't have had their job if, the influence peddling that she took off her father, which meant John McCain.
Are you kidding me?
And as if using the name to get a job in the private sector, not influence peddling, which is selling access to the president of the United States, which is completely different. So all the argument of The View had nothing to do with what the accusations are against Hunter Biden and Joe Biden.
Coattails.
None of it related it.
Coattails is nothing new and nothing illegal.
Right. Just amazing.
Influence peddling certainly crosses a moral line and possibly some legal lines along the way. And that's the legal lines have yet to be proven.
Well, they weren't even talking about Joe, though. They were talking about Hunter.
Right.
Well, everything that he's been charged. Meghan McCain was not. And she's like, I may get a lawyer, but they didn't mention her name specifically.
Well.
Because I bet you if they mentioned her name, the lawyers that they have on retainer, because they can't trust the hosts of The View to tell the truth.
Would have said, you need to come back with a disclaimer and make something clear.
Yep, you need to come back with a disclaimer. But since they didn't mention the name, which shows they know what they were doing.
Of course.
They knew that they were telling a lie. That's why they didn't say her name.
Because they may hear from her lawyers or may already have heard from her lawyers anyway. If I were her lawyers, I'd call.
Yeah. Just to get
Who else could that have been?
Just to get the apology.
Oh, yeah.
Just to make them retract it again.
Right.
Because if I'm a lawyer, I'm going, my God, they're hitting Meghan McCain. She didn't do it, Hunter.
She didn't do anything, and there's nobody else that you could have meant by that. That was Meghan McCain you meant.
And by saying it, aren't you defaming her that she should be charged with the criminal act?
Exactly.
866-90-RED-I.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-I on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I still love this one because of the paranoia started in the media the last 36 hours.
Right.
And this is the one I love the most. Politico's John Lemire reported Wednesday that the younger Biden may be forced to leave the U.S. if Trump is reelected. He'll be a victim of Trump.
Is he evading the law? Is he a flight risk?
But I think you're going to see it really over the next month as the Republicans will be quiet because they won't be in there. I think the media is going to go crazy.
I think so, too.
Paranoia.
That's what I was saying yesterday. This is really going to be wild to watch between now and the end of the year.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.